Okay, everyone, good morning. Wednesday morning, the middle of the week, and we are looking ahead to a Celtic game tonight. Celtic at home to the third best team in Scotland, Dundee United. We can chat a bit about that today. Plenty of other stuff, though, Ryan. So we'll definitely get on to the game, but it won't be the main thing today because there is genuinely quite a lot we can get into and discuss. First of all, how are you?
Things are good, yeah. Enjoyed my day off yesterday, but happy to be back on, then off again, then back on for the game tonight. I'll be doing pre and post match with Tony. So plenty of videos to be discussing Celtic today, but looking forward to it all the same.
Excellent. Right. Before we get started, I just want to tell you about an offer, really good offer that we have running at the moment. It's all change at the Celtic Way. Obviously, John, my good friend, has come aboard, and well, I think John has brought his own kind of style to things, and clearly knows what he's talking about, and just adds to the great team that we've got with Ryan and Tony and the rest of the guys as well. I'm blabbering on, Ryan. What is this offer we've got?
So it's one of our best ever offers that we've got on at the moment. It's £1 for 6 months of the best Celtic content that money can buy. You know, that £1 will get you sorted until next year, basically, well into next year or into this year.
I was going to say, Ryan, your
I know, I
calendar's a
know, I
wee
know.
bit off there.
I'm so used to talking about it being, you're getting a deal into next year, but it's
Yeah.
through into the middle of this year. So you'll be getting transfer latest, breaking manager, player interviews, match tactics and analysis with our data provider StatsBomb using their data, scouting reports, player analysis, exclusive Celtic interviews, and the bespoke ad-free app. So if you want to get involved, guys, £1 for 6 months. Get involved at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, and you join us if you haven't already done so.
Yeah, it's a really excellent offer. I mean the quality. uh, This is going to sound terrible, Ryan, but I up until recently I hadn't actually subscribed and only subscribed recently. Kind of a bit frustrated that you've now put this offer on after me paying my £4 a month or whatever it was, which is still pretty good value. Point I'm going to make is that but I've been really kind of impressed with the quality of stuff that goes up, and kind of transfer reports. And the kind of underrated thing I really like is the press conference stuff where you have all the questions and answers. So great stuff. Get involved, everyone. I'll stick the ticker back on the bottom and you can kind of see what you need to do to get involved there. Morning, everyone. Hello, Arthur. Not seen Arthur's name before, I don't think. So I've probably made him jump out of his skin there. Get Quinny on, Mikey Boy, Dennis. This must be a wind up for Dennis and I'm on to you, Dennis. All that Dennis asks about is Greg Taylor's contract. Must be a wind up. I see it virtually every video that I'm on. At some point, Dennis will pop up and ask, what's the latest with Greg Taylor's contract? Are you a family member, Dennis, or are you just at the wind up? Wow. Well, Greg Taylor's fit for tonight, apparently, Ryan. I think he took a bit of a sore one in his nose. But Brendan Rodgers says he's ready to go for tonight, and I guess he'll get a really good reception.
Yeah, especially because it's his 200th Celtic appearance if he plays tonight as well. So it's a big night for him. I think it's easy to forget just how many trophies Greg Taylor's been a part of for Celtic since he's joined in 2019. He was one of the Kieran Tierney replacements alongside Bolly Ball and goalie.
It's ironic that, isn't it? The fact that he was a Tierney replacement, now Tierney might replace him.
I've been saying that for the past couple of days. It's although I maybe shouldn't talk about that too much. Shouldn't talk about Kieran Tierney. Seems to be a bit of a hot topic at the moment, especially with the manager and his press conferences. But yeah, he's been such a good servant for Celtic. I think people forget as well how good he was under Ange Postecoglou, particularly in that second season where he was arguably one of Celtic's player of the seasons when Celtic won a treble in Ange Postecoglou's second season. He was tremendous playing in that inverted role. He was one of the between him and Ralston, they had to really adapt or perish in Ange Postecoglou's team, and they did really well. They were one of the first ones to really sort of show their worth, both left back and right back. But regardless of what happens in the next 6 months or in the next few weeks as well, he's been a tremendous player for Celtic, both on and off the pitch, because I think he conducts himself really well in the media. too. Not heard. To be fair, since all this has happened, all of the contractual disputes or the uncertainty surrounding his contract, he's not really been put up in front of the media. But whenever he has, he's been brilliant, and you can see why he's not, because that'd be the only thing that the people talk about if they went there. Yeah, he's been a good player for Celtic, and regardless of what happens, I think everybody will wish him all the best. And I think he'll get a good response tonight when he takes to the field, if he takes to the field.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's saying quite a simple thing, but, Tierney and Taylor would be a cracking pairing, splitting the workload. I mean, the one thing you would say about Greg Taylor is he's very rarely injured. He's very reliable. And I don't know if there's a way we can sign Greg Taylor up. I know it's a bit of a divisive issue in itself. And I wouldn't be particularly gutted if Greg Taylor left. I'll be brutally honest. I think we can improve. But if he was to be the kind of option alongside Kieran Tierney next season, I think that would be pretty decent. In terms of Celtic. What else did we have? So we had press conferences yesterday. Brendan Rodgers, Arne Engels. I counted the questions to Brendan Rodgers. I think 12 of the 16 questions were on fan frustration and Greg Taylor comments and all that kind of stuff. So fair to say it dominated the press conference. Brendan Rodgers relatively keen to move on, I would say, while also clearly making no apology for the comments and that quote he gave about I'm not going to beat about the bush when I'm talking about the bush. So I think, quite simply we move on from that. Was there anything major you took away from the press conference?
Just that there was a lot of questions towards comments that happened 3 days prior or 2 days prior. I thought that, I thought there was been a more focus on the fact that there was a game the next day against Dundee United, against one of the informed teams in the Scottish Premiership. It seemed like the main topic of conversation was about his comments on Sunday. I don't think it helps matters, to be honest with you, talking about it, going on and on and on about it. As you said, 12 out of the 16 questions posed to the manager were about his comments from 2 days prior. So it's one of these ones. It's annoying to... I think this is where the Q&A helps on the Celtic Way website, because I think listening to the video would have been a bit of a tough listen, but even just going through it and reading it word for word on the website was really helpful in terms of getting context as well as some clips that are getting shared as well around social media. It's good to have the context and the question alongside the answer as well. Put it this way, I think I enjoyed the Arne Engels press conference a lot more than the Brendan Rodgers one.
What was he saying then?
I think everything that he says, he's so measured, and he's one of these guys you get what you pay for in terms of professionalism as well. He's talking about his challenges of getting back in the team due to being on the bench, always being ready. Talked about his experience at Ibrox, obviously getting hit by the projectile late on in that game, and how it was a bit of a culture shock to him in terms of he doesn't really expect that to happen when he's going and playing. Who does when they're going and playing football to be expected to be hit by a coin? But he's an impressive individual, and I'm glad that he's always shown that off the pitch, and he's shown glimpses of it on the pitch, but he's shown it more now than ever before. I think in the last 3 home games, you could genuinely make a case for him being the best player on the park in all 3 games. I thought he was man of the match again on Sunday, despite Nicholas Kuhn grabbing the stadium accolade because of those 2 goals that he scored. I think he's been really impressive recently, and I think that he's one of the first names on the team sheet tonight against Dundee United. But yeah, very, very impressed by what I've seen over the past sort of 2-3 weeks or so.
I think the word you used there, measured, pretty much sums him up. Like he's really not flustered by any media questioning, and he's just turned 21, hasn't he, a couple of months ago, and thrust into that limelight of being in front of the Scottish media for the biggest club in Scotland, the club that wins all the trophies. He's really not fazed by that at all. Is quite a simple thing to say, but his grasp of English is excellent, to the extent that there was a question, I can't remember exactly what the question was during yesterday's press conference, but he kind of wanted to find out a bit more what the question was about, and the guy asking the question actually explained the wrong bit of the question, if that made sense. Like Arne Engels was really on to what it meant. He was actually finding out exactly what the question was about. So I think I really like him, and I agree with you. He's playing quite well. He'd play for me tonight. I think tonight's team, we can come on to it later on, but I think tonight's team is an interesting one because generally this season, Brendan Rodgers has been rotating from weekend to midweek. I think he'll do the same, but I feel differently about the squad right now than I did 2 or 3 weeks ago before Ibrox, if I'm honest. And by that, what I mean is, previously I would have been probably calling for Rio Hatate or Liam Scales to come in tonight. Don't necessarily want to see that, especially with Hatate. I really want to see that midfield continue, or, Bernardo come in alongside Engels. So it's going to be interesting to see what the manager does. We don't really have many options up front now. Would someone like Yang come in tonight? I'm not so sure. I'd rather probably see Maida. But we can come on to that. The big story, I think, yesterday, the one we're leading with, and the headline is that Brendan Rodgers basically confirmed that Stephen Welsh is going to be leaving the club. He's heading to the Belgian Pro League side, KV Mechelen. Rodgers said there's a possibility that he'll go out on loan. It's not confirmed yet. I think it's more than a possibility. I think it's pretty likely to happen. Celtic have recalled Dane Murray from his loan at Queen's Park, and he's basically going to take Welsh's place as our fourth choice centre-back, and I mean fourth because I think Mike Naropski is behind him, certainly behind Stephen Welsh. So Welsh moving on, I guess it was always coming alone, probably the best thing for his career, and a chance for Dane Murray to come in.
Yeah, first of all, with Stephen Welsh, I think that he's got to move on for the sake of his career. What age is he now? 25, 26, that sort of age range. He's not a young player anymore. He needs to be going out and playing regular football at a good level, and he will be doing that at Mechelen in the Belgium League. So I'm delighted for him that he's moving on and he's getting some game time. It's not to say that his career's finished at Celtic, but he's made that initial step, that loan move, and I hope that he gets a lot of game time and comes back in the summer, either to make a claim in the first team, or to stake a claim in the first team, or to move on permanently. Whatever's best for his career, I think that he's got to really look at that. I don't think he's let anybody down with his performances, especially recently against Dundee United away from home. I thought he was fine, but he needs to get that game time playing week in, week out, and Mechelen have been a team that have been keen on him for some time now. So the fact that they've renewed that interest and got him in essentially in like the first week, second week of January shows their interest in the player and probably shows where he'll play, which is in the first team, which is good for him. He's not the first player to move from Mechelen from Celtic to Mechelen. There's been a couple of others. Marian Shved and Bolibol and Goalie have been two that have played for the two clubs in recent times. So there is a bit of a link between the two clubs, and it's an avenue that's served them quite well in the past. So hopefully the same can happen for Stephen Welsh. In terms of Dane Murray, Dane Murray's been a bit of a forgotten man at Celtic. He had that debut the two games against Midtjylland and Ange Postecoglou's first two professional games, and then terrible injuries have caught up with him. Was it 2 ACL injuries in as many years, which is so difficult to come back from? One ACL injury's bad enough, but having two in such a short period of time, that can be quite debilitating for a player. So it's good that he's shown that he's fit. Queen's Park move's been very good for him under Callum Davidson. They were clearly gutted to lose him, gutted to lose a player of that calibre, but it shows that he's more than capable of stepping up when required. And I would much rather Celtic have a younger option coming in and having that potential opportunity than a player that maybe down the line is going to leave the club in Stephen Welsh. So I'm pretty happy with the way that this has gone, and I hope that Dane Murray, when he does get his chance in the first team, that might be in the League Cup or the Scottish Cup rather, against Kilmarnock or in another game, he takes it with both hands.
I think there's a fair chance you don't see him the rest of the season.
It's true.
I mean, we saw Stephen Welsh twice in the first half of the season, and that was with Stephen Welsh having years of experience behind him. So, yeah, I think, I've got a comment in there, if I can find it, saying, he should have been, Charlie saying it, not a good move. He was better off playing where he was playing games. I totally get that argument. And in an ideal world, he probably would keep playing. If there was a way you could almost like have him keep playing for Queen's Park, but be available for Celtic in the event of an injury crisis, we maybe would have looked at that, but I don't think you can really do that. So I think centre-back were relatively well stocked at the moment. You would say with Carter Vickers, Trusty and Scales, you get three pretty reliable options there. I think Liam Scales is a pretty good backup centre-back. I really just want to see Trusty and Carter Vickers play now for a run of games like we got previously with Carter Vickers and Starfelt. So I'm not sure you'll see Dane Murray. Maybe later on in the season if the league's in the bag type thing. Yeah, we might see him at some stage, but not so sure. And just wish all the best to Stephen Welsh. I think he's been in Belgium for a few days, so seems very much like that will be confirmed at some stage. In terms of income and stuff, which is always a bit more exciting, there's obviously been a lot of speculation about Jota recently. However, it has been reported a few places now that he's potentially heading somewhere else. Certainly was reported last night by the Daily Mail, Stephen McGowan, saying that we're focusing on other targets and Jota feels he has done his time in Scottish football. So it seems like this is just kind of fan chat. I saw there's actually something up on our website at the moment saying that Besiktas are apparently pretty keen on signing Jota from Rennes. So it seems like he'll be heading elsewhere. Kieran Tierney stuff, Mikel Arteta spoke about it at his press conference before the Newcastle game, so probably a couple of days ago now. Didn't give anything away. He said there's absolutely no news. Kieran is our player. But we don't have to go through Arsenal to sign Tierney on a pre-contract, so that's kind of... Obviously, if we want to sign him in January, we'll need to go and speak to Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's happening. To be honest with you, Kieran Tierney, I think it's too far down the road, or so far down the line that he will join. It can't not happen now. There's been too much said about the player. I think it will happen, whether it happens in January or the summer. I think he will be in a Celtic top.
What does your gut tell you? Do you think there's do you feel personally there's a rush to get Tierney in January?
Not really. Not really, if I'm being perfectly honest. It would be preferable to have him in the second half of the season. To have a player of the calibre of Kieran Tierney in the back line would be so good for Celtic, especially in making that... sort of losing the lopsidedness, because I think you've got physicality on the right side with Alistair Johnson, so bringing that with Kieran Tierney on the left-hand side would make it more balanced. I know you get different strengths and weaknesses from a player like Greg Taylor, probably better at inverting and playmaking. But with Kieran Tierney, you're getting a more traditional left-back that can run down the line. He isn't really suited to the inverted role. Arteta's played him there a couple of times, and he's not really... I was speaking to a couple of Arsenal supporters and journalists over the past few days, and they said that that's just not his game. He's not an inverted player, so much so that he was left on the bench last night. I watched about 88, 89 minutes of the game last night, and it was Zinchenko that was coming on late on in the tie. Arsenal were well beaten.
Few minutes out of interest.
I was going to go to the cinema, so it was one of those ones that I was going late to the cinema, and I left it as long as I could. But yeah, I checked the score as soon as I got into the cinema, not in the theatre, not in the actual auditorium, before anybody tries to grasp me in or that. But yeah, it's a weird one for Tierney, isn't it? Because he's kind of stuck in limbo. The moment he's not going to get much game time at Arsenal. He had that one appearance in the League Cup against Crystal Palace, but yeah. I think for him, he would want to probably join in January and get more game time at Celtic, but it might be
Steve's bringing up the financial aspect of that. He won't give up his final 5 months Arsenal salary, which is a fair point that I hadn't actually considered. I just feel that I think we'll sign him in a pre-contract, and that'll probably be it. Because I'm trying to think, what will Arsenal want for Kieran Tierney for 5 months of Tierney? And you're thinking it'll be in the millions, won't it? Given that, we're not signing Gary Mackay-Steven from Dundee United for 6 months early. This is Kieran Tierney. You'd think it'd be in the millions, maybe something like 2-3 million, something like that. And I'm not sure Celtic will pay that unless Brendan Rodgers is really keen to bring him in. And I'm not sure he's absolutely keen to get him here right now. I could be wrong. It might be a case of getting to the end of the window and we put an offer in, and it's a case of Arsenal aren't going to pay him, so do they take some money over no money? I just think with Celtic, maybe it's just my years of supporting Celtic, but I just feel like we'll sign him in a pre-contract and that'll be that. And to be honest, that's fine. I'd rather get him in January. I think it'd be a big boost to the place. It gives them 5-6 months to get up to speed. It improves our chances in the Champions League knockouts potentially. So it could be quite big for us, but my sense is, based on nothing other than just my own daft thoughts, that it'll be a pre-contract.
I think he would come in if Greg Taylor was to leave the club in January. That would change things significantly. But
yeah,
as things stand, it seems as if Greg Taylor is either going to sign a new deal or he's going to see out his contract at Celtic and then leave in the summer for nothing. There was those links with Dinamo Zagreb that have seemed to have quietened down in the past couple of days. But it's not as if it's an area at this point in time that Celtic are badly needing reinforcements in, because Greg Taylor's a more than capable left back. Even despite all this noise that's going on about the player currently, he's still a capable left back. You've got Alex Bailly, who was in the Barcelona academy, who's made appearances for the Barcelona first team in pre-season. So they've got players in that position that can come in. I'd quite like to see Bailly tonight against Dundee United. I feel like I see that every single game. Then it's Greg Taylor. So it's an interesting one. I want to see more of him, but if Brendan Rodgers prefers Greg Taylor, then I guess he'll start, especially if he's fit.
Yeah, it might be a case of, putting Greg Taylor out there tonight and maybe proving a point. Brendan Rodgers, I don't know, that might come into the thinking. Yeah, so it is Dundee United tonight, third in the Premiership at the moment. They're having a really good season. Promoted team as well, something that people probably forget. Has a team that's been promoted ever done so well? Rangers, maybe 2016.
Yeah, I think they finished third, didn't they, in 2016?
Hearts did it as well, actually, the year before they get promoted. But obviously slightly different with Dundee United. Like, they're doing a really good job, and they're going to be defensive tonight, aren't they? They're going to be hard to break down. And Brendan Rodgers thinks that it will be different at Celtic Park as opposed to a few weeks ago at Tannadice.
Yeah, I think Celtic will be fine tonight, just due to the fact that it's at home. But it'll be a difficult game against Dundee United. They're clearly playing well. I know they lost their game last time out against Hearts at home. It was a late winner. It was a good goal from Penrice. But it'll be a difficult game. Jim Goodwin, I think, is one of the main candidates for Manager of the Year so far, I would say, for his job that he's done at Dundee United, especially considering how his last few managerial jobs have went in terms of the way they've transpired. You look at Aberdeen, the way he's managed to turn around his managerial career, because it was make or break at Dundee United. They had to win the league last season and go up in the Scottish Premiership. Dundee United, with all due respect, shouldn't be in the Championship. They should be one of the mainstays in the Premiership. I know football doesn't work like that, but they are one of the big teams in Scotland, and they should be in the Premiership, pushing for those European places and beyond. But he's done well. He's gotten to third place at the moment. It looked as if for a while that third place was going to be a lock for Aberdeen, but this it's not even a mini blip anymore. It's a full grown sort of catastrophe that's happening at Aberdeen. Although they seem to be remedying that by signing a couple of players over the past few days from interesting places. So it'd be interesting to see how they go on as the season progresses. But Dundee United deserve to be there on merit at the moment because they're playing well. They've got a goal scorer in Sam Dalby up front on loan from Wrexham. And I think it's all about keeping him quiet tonight. If you can keep him quiet, you'll keep Dundee United quiet because he's their main source of goals. Good team, good manager, but I do think that Celtic will prevail as the winners and quite comfortably so tonight.
I think so. Team-wise, what are you thinking? Are you allowed to reveal that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think I'm allowed to. Yeah. Okay. I think it was the other boys that did the predictions yesterday or today, this morning. So I can sort of give away spoilers for what I think the team's going to be. I keep Trusty in there. You don't drop Trusty anymore, in my opinion. You pay £6 million for a defender. He's got to play most games, if not every game, for Celtic alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers, especially if they're fit. As much as I think Scales has done a good job, I think that Trusty just needs to be playing every game now. And I want to see this partnership continue with him and Cameron Carter-Vickers, because I think it's the one that will be playing in Europe. It'll be important for those two to build their understanding as they were doing pre-Rangers in the League Cup final. And then all of a sudden, Trusty, for whatever reason, I know there was a couple of reasons, he got illness, but he didn't play the next 5 or 6 games. And then now he's back. He scored his first goal for Celtic at the weekend. Seems to be a threat from corners. You wouldn't put it past him scoring again from a corner, especially with the way that those deliveries go in from Arne Engels. Those two have got to be in the starting 11 for me, Arne Engels and Austin Trusty. Apart from that, maybe Bernardo coming back into the team, potentially Alex Bailly. But yeah, Bernardo didn't even come off the bench the other day. So
yeah, Bernardo start. I've gone McGregor, Bernardo, Engels, personally. Could be Hatate, to be honest. Hatate could come. He could change the two in front of McGregor like he often does, and could be Bernardo and Hatate. I hate to just seem like I'm moaning about Hatate, but I'm just a wee bit fed up of him right at this moment. I think I need a good 10 days more of not seeing Hatate giving the ball away to just get back to loving him again. And I hope I'll get back there at some stage, but he could well start tonight. And if he does, he obviously need to play well. I think he was all right at the weekend when he came on. Front three.
I think Kyogo comes back for this one.
Yeah.
But really, you're just chopping and changing at the moment. They're not really setting the heather alight at all up front. The two of them, they're hardly scoring any goals between the two of them. Ida had, he was feeding off of scraps, and I just think that the striker's role for Celtic's forwards has changed over the past few years or so. You mean you look back, I know it was more than a few years ago for the likes of Anthony Stokes and Gary Hooper, but looking back on those games, how many chances did those players get? Maybe that's just football changing as a whole, but those players would get 2 or 3 chances where they're right in front of goal, it's 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. It just doesn't seem as if Celtic strikers get that anymore, and they really need to take those 1 or 2 opportunities when they come around, even if they're half chances or set pieces in which they get their head on a ball or something like that. Maybe the game's changed, but that they're involved in the build-up play now as well. It's really a whole game and not just the forwards game that they play. So for me, Kyogo would be back in the team alongside Kun and Maeda. But I think left wing's an area that needs to be looked at this month as well. Maeda's playing every single game. You're going to see that burnout eventually in the season because he's playing, and you need that rotation there as well. I need somebody to be pushing Maeda. Not that he's doing a bad job this season because he's scored more goals than any other season, and we're already only halfway through it. But I need somebody else there to be pushing him and even giving rotation options as well. As much as Lewis Palmer's there, he's not really challenging him at this moment in time. So I'd like to see that area get a wee bit of reinforcements, maybe a couple of other ones. But yeah, Maeda's fine for the moment, but I just don't want to see him getting burned out by the time we get to February, March time, because he's going to be an important player in the business end of the season.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a few positions kind of standing out to me now as needing a little bit of help. Clearly, the left wing. I think you bring in another left winger. There's been talk again of Balak Wisha. I think 5 million. They're potentially talking for him. His injury record worries me a little bit, if I'm honest.
It's really
He's
bad.
missed a lot of time recently. But then again, it might just be another player, another left winger that we've not heard of. A bit like we hadn't heard of Nicholas Kuhn this time last year, and then he kind of signed within a few days. So left wing and probably left back, maybe forward. I don't know. Maybe some sort of shake-up is coming up top. Who knows? We'll wait and see what's happening there. But I just sense that something might be happening.
Yeah, I think the name that isn't going away, and we've heard about him for 2 transfer windows now, as well as Balak on the left wing, is Bazumana Toure, who plays for Hammarby just now in the Swedish league, the 18-year-old Ivorian winger who seems to be really tearing it up in Sweden at the moment. I was having a wee look at some of the clips, some of what people were saying about this particular player. Even despite him being 18, 19 years old, he seems to already be one of the best young talents in Sweden. So his name is making waves in Scottish media at the moment in terms of that name that keeps on coming up and keeping on getting spoke about. I think that's an interesting one to watch because I think that's the perfect type of profile, signing an 18, 19-year-old winger, even to play behind Dyson Maeda, come in during games, but also providing that rotational role if possible. The last time that Celtic signed a player of that age was Lee Alabada, and he didn't do too bad in terms of coming in and instantly staking a claim. Probably helped with the circumstances surrounding him as well. The fact that position was up for grabs when Ange Postecoglou came to the club. But signing somebody that's 18, 19 that can develop in the background as well as come in and make an impact could be the way to go.
Could well be. Yes, all the transfer stuff's going to continue. Looking forward to seeing the team in action tonight. It's really been a really good season in all competitions, but especially domestically and especially in the league. The team have been, ultra consistent throughout. A couple of wee blips in there, one real blip to be honest. But hopefully get back. Chance to go 16 points clear. I think we'll all feel very good about ourselves and very good about 4 in a row. If we win tonight, I mean, you really 16 points clear. You'd feel great. Referee Kevin Clancy tonight, everyone. So you can go along tonight and watch him do his stuff, and hopefully we score some goals, and hopefully the atmosphere is good. I know that. Yeah, Joe's wondering if we'll see a banner tonight, quite possibly, Joe. It might be an interesting night as well. I think there'll be stuff going on in the stands. Hopefully, it doesn't take away from the team's performance.
No, absolutely. And there'll be all eyes on this game because Rangers don't play until tomorrow night against Dundee away from home at Dens Park, which is another banana skin game, you would say, in terms of potential slip-ups, especially with the way that their team is going at the moment and the personnel that they've got missing, particularly in the back line. So it's all about Celtic getting the 3 points tonight and maintaining that scoreboard pressure. As much as I believe that the league is a bit of a formality at this point, just given the gap between the two sides, it'd be good to put even more pressure on them going into that game tomorrow because Dundee are a good side. You know, they've had a couple of adverse results recently, but they are a good side to watch and they can cause problems. So putting that pressure on Rangers, being away from home as well, you know, it's a very Jekyll and Hyde in terms of their home form and their away form. So Celtic getting the 3 points, putting that pressure on them and seeing how they manage tomorrow at Dens Park. But all eyes are on tonight. Get the 3 points, get a good performance, get the goals, spread them out, spread around the team, get the strikers scoring a couple of goals as well. And I think everybody would be quite happy with the way that Celtic are going. You know, it's important that they got that comeback. That comeback win against St Mirren after the defeat against Rangers. But it's all about consolidating that and really continuing to push on because it has been a great season. It was a blip against Rangers and a slight blip against Dundee United the last time the two sides played. But it's been a great season so far in all competitions. It's just all about keeping that going and keeping the feel-good factor going.
Great stuff. You'll be there tonight, Ryan. You'll be doing videos before and after as well. Tony will be on with you tonight, so everyone can stay tuned for that. We'll get a dose of Tony on Wednesday, which is all well and good. And we'll head off for now. Thanks everyone for watching. Just a final reminder, we've got this terrific offer running at the moment. You can get access to the Celtic Way for 6 months for just £1, and all those are all the kind of things that you get as part of that as well. Okay, thanks Ryan. We'll catch up with you later in the day. I'll be back tomorrow morning looking back in the game.